All right, so today I'm out here working on the boat, getting ready for the sailing season, but I wanted to take a second and talk about the hull deck joint and the rub rail on the Precision boats. So I believe all the Precision boats have this design, with the exception of the early 1980s sailing dinghies, the P14 and the P16, which have a different joint and they don't have a rub rail. But I think all the other boats do have the same design. So what it is it's a bunch of layers that come together, the different molds, and then they're bolted together to create this joint, and then they're covered by a rub rail. So like on the Precision 18, it's the hull, it's the interior liner, which makes up like the V-berth and the benches inside the boat, and then the deck, which is the cockpit and the decks up front. And so those three layers come together, they're bolted together along this joint, and then covered by this rub rail. So, there's three issues that come up a lot with Precision boats, as far as leaks go. One is this joint, the other one is the chain plates, and then the last one is the cockpit drains. So if you have leaks in your boat, if you're finding water in your bilge, then those are the three most common sources of that water. So as far as this joint goes, the joint itself is sealed with 3M 5200 sealant. And so what happens is over time that stuff gets worn out or worn off, or you might maybe hit a dock or another boat or something, have some kind of a collision, and so it can separate these three layers. And so what happens is once the layers have a little opening in them, there's a little separation, then whatever water ends up on your decks hits the rub rail, hits that joint, hits the rub rail, goes into the rub rail, and then instead of coming out the bottom, it gets channeled by the rub rail into those little openings and gaps in that joint. And so that's how you get water inside the boat. So it's really important if you have a Precision boat or another boat of a different brand that has this rub rail design, to pull it off once in a while and take a look underneath. And you can see mine is pretty dirty. The boat's been sitting outside for a couple days and it's been super windy. So there's a bunch of, basically fine sand. And of course, it's like sandpaper in there. And so at the end of every season, and then before I put the boat in the water at the beginning of the season, I take my rub rail off, clean that joint really, really well. I clean inside the rub rail because, you can clean the joint, but if there's a bunch of dirt and grime inside the rub rail and you just put it back on, then, you really haven't done anything. So it's going to keep on, think about, as you're trailering it, all the vibrations and stuff, it's going to be like sandpaper grinding on that, the sealant of the joint. So it's really important that you inspect this once in a while, clean it, get all the grit out, and if you're one of the folks that, I store my boat indoors, but if you store your boat, outside, on the trailer, and, there's leaves falling on it and whatever else, then it's going to get exposed to a bunch of grit. And when I bought mine, it was like all black stuff, which I assume was like leaves and stuff, but, there was a bunch of black grit in here. And so, I clean all that out, and mine, for the most part, looks almost new. This little area right here doesn't look great. So, in fact, you can see in this part of the boat where you can actually see the three layers of the joint. But, up front toward the bow, it's pristine. You can't see any of that. And all you see is the heavily gooped on 3M 5200 sealant. So, definitely take this off once in a while, do a little inspection under there, do some cleaning, make sure you keep that thing clean, and it'll last a lot longer. Now, some owners have expressed that, their rub rail doesn't come off. Mine comes off really easily. You can see I can just put it right back on. And it's, I don't know, I guess maybe it's a little stretched out, or maybe it was put on a little more loosely. Some people have expressed extreme difficulty in putting these rub rails back on. And so, a lot of people have used things like come-alongs to pull on the bow side of the rub rail and get it over that, the nose if they take it all the way off. I don't take off the part on the bow. I just take off the part on the beam on each side of the boat. But, like I said, mine goes right back on and right back off, but some folks have expressed extreme difficulty in putting these back on. So, you can use things like a come along to stretch it out. Definitely recommend you do it on a hot, sunny day because it's black and so it'll warm up. A lot of folks have used heat guns, along the rub rail to just kind of soften it up and get it to stretch a little more. So there are ways to put it back on if you have one that is very tight. And then, if you do start seeing, those the 3 layers become a little more distinct. You can see them a little better. Then you know the 3M sealant is getting thin. And so it might be time to goop some more of that stuff on. And that's, it's easy to do. I would probably use the fast cure stuff because the slow cure stuff takes forever. But yeah, I would use the 3M 5200 fast cure, goop it on real nice and thick, and then just let it, cure. And then, you put the rub rail right back over it. You can, if you need to, you can trim out any, parts that stick out or whatever with a sharp blade. Mechanical cleanup of it is what's recommended. So, goop it on nice and thick, and then if you need to shave a little bit of off by sanding or with a blade, you can do that. But, really, cosmetically, nobody's going to see it because it's going to be under the rub rail. So, I would just get a razor blade, take off any, big chunks, and then cover it right back up. All right, well, as always, I hope this was helpful, and thanks for watching.